Well, what's up, everybody? And thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Above the Nest with Raichele, brought to you by SB Nation in a Bleeding Green Nation. The 2023 training camp and preseason are officially behind us. And so that means that we're one step closer to the regular season kicking off. And so if you're watching this video on YouTube, you can see that I am joined by a very familiar face for a lot of you guys. One of my sisters in sports. I've had her on the podcast a few times now, so I'm sure you guys recognize her. Her name is Symone Stanley. She has a YouTube channel. She also covers the Philadelphia Eagles on Symone with the Sports, and you can also follow her on Twitter at Symone_Stanley. So what's up, Symone? How's it going? Football is back. So how are you feeling?
I'm excited. I feel like this is one of the shortest off seasons. I feel like we didn't even really I feel like we were just like recovering from the Super Bowl. It didn't even
Yes.
feel like there was that much time off from the Eagles and content creators. So I'm super excited, but I feel like this off season was a blur.
Heck yeah. And like you said, I mean, the fact that they went to the Super Bowl, it made everything just get condensed
Oh
and
yeah,
made
you're right. That's
it.
why, because the other little teams, they were done in December.
They were
And
done. They were just freaking early, you know? So it was definitely the off season felt weird. It felt so different this season.
right,
But I was happy that I got to, check out and kind of like enjoy a little bit of the off season before we're back in full swing of things. So
right.
we're gonna get into all of it. But before we even do, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, subscribe, leave your written reviews, 5 stars, all that good stuff. But there are a lot of storylines surrounding the birds right now. And, like I said, the season is right around the corner. We get a little bit of a break. So I felt what better way to preview the season than bringing you on to talk birds. So I want to talk about some of the more like timely news that's going on. Of course, starting with what happened on Monday, the Eagles' decision to sign former Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers. And so this player is going to be suspended for the 2023 season for gambling. He violated the NFL's like policy for gambling. And so the Eagles aren't going to be able to benefit from this upcoming season. But I did want to get your initial thoughts on this signing. Was this a good or bad move made by Howie Roseman?
I think it was a really good move because he's a young player. He's really good on special teams. He'll be a good depth piece going forward because as of right now, our cornerback room is fine. It's really good as of today, but we know we're going to have to start passing the torch soon with Bradbury and Slay being up there in age. So even though he's not able to play, he's still able to learn from two of the best in the game in Slay and Bradbury. He's still able to watch and learn and be Sean Desai's defense, even though it's from the sidelines. And sometimes they say being on the sidelines is the best way to learn as a player because you get to see how everything plays out and you get to see how everyone reacts to certain things. So even though he's not going to be able to play for us this season, he's still going to be familiar with the system, familiar with the players, familiar with our defense. So come next season, he better be ready to go because he had a full year to look at the playbook. And his dad was an Eagles fan. He was posting about it last night. So he's someone who already, is has love for the team and love for the city. Plus, when he was gambling, he was making little bets for his team. And we know the Colts sucked last season. So if he was betting for his team last season, then he is a guy that's loyal to the soil. So I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, the fact that Howie Roseman, we have learned from his past decisions that he definitely looks ahead to the future. And so even though they're not going to be able to benefit from him this upcoming season, like you said, we got our 2 star cornerbacks are older in age. And so I think that this was good. I'm not mad at it. He was pretty productive when he was playing for the Colts. So it's like young talent. I don't see anything wrong with it. And job well done, Howie Roseman, pretty much. That's all I can say. So I'm not mad at it. It is what it is. But also some more news that has happened. The Eagles have decided to grant permission to Derek Barnett to allow him to seek a trade. And so he's 27 years old. His most productive season was in 2019, but since then he hasn't had more than 6.5 sacks. And so in addition to the lack of production that he's been having, it's always him, as Nick Sirianni always says, with his penalties racking up on like stupid decisions that he's making. And then also he's had some injury concerns. And so just looking at this the defensive end room that is definitely loaded with pass rushers, he's not going to get a lot of playing time. We know what it is. Hassan Reddick, Nolan Smith, BG. And so do you think that the Eagles will be able to get a good return for him by allowing him to seek a trade?
I think we'll get a decent return because everybody has seen the material with Derek Barnett.
Yeah.
Not only the injury concerns, but even when he's in the game, again, putting us in difficult situations with penalties. He is still younger, and I feel like we can maybe get I feel like we can get at least a 5th round pick. I feel like for him, which I feel like anything we get in return is fine because, like you said, he's going to be coming on this team as a depth piece. He's not going to get that much playing time. And then also to couple with the fact that he's always starting issues. He started a couple of internal issues at camp with some players. So he's just kind of a hot head. So I feel like the team at this point is just kind of like, we're through. We're done with you. Like we put up with this enough. Like we have a good feng shui going on our team. We don't need a bad egg, a bad seed, starting trouble. So I think that it's time for Derek Barnett to move on. I don't know if we're gonna get anything like, woo, we got this back. You saw how Isaiah Simmons went for a 7th round pick. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what we'll get back for Derek Barnett, but at this point, somebody just take him.
Yeah. I agree with that one. The reason that we are here though, today we are recording on Tuesday, August 29th. Roster cuts are at 4 p.m. today. We're recording at 11:42. Some roster cuts have already been made for the Philadelphia Eagles. Some players waived. And so are you surprised by any of the players that have been released so far? Some of them not really surprised by, but did any of them stand out to you?
So far, no. The cuts that I've seen, unless I missed some since we've been on here, I haven't been surprised by anybody. I feel like the biggest thing we're going to be looking out for is the safety room, seeing how that shakes out. Special teams a little bit with Sean Bradley and Zach McPherson getting hurt. Some other guys might slip through and make the roster because they're going to be out for the season on IR. Linebacker as well. But outside of that, I haven't been surprised by anything. I felt like Ian Book had to go. There was a lot of players on the list that I was obviously camp bodies because I didn't even recognize their names when I saw that they had got cut. I was surprised that Trey Sermon wasn't cut at this point. Yeah. I thought he was going to be somewhat right. I thought he wasn't going to make it past that the second preseason game.
Yeah.
So to see that he's still on the roster, I'm like, okay, Trey, you know what I mean? I guess because Nick Sirianni been going on and on and on about how much he loves Trey, so maybe he really does. But I've also heard some people saying we could be using him as a trade piece. So today should be really interesting. As of right now, not surprised by any cuts.
Yeah, I wasn't really surprised by any either. One that kind of like caught my eye was Tyree Jackson because I feel like he was getting a lot of talk. Like there was a lot of buzz surrounding him, but I guess they also, already have Grant Calcaterra. I'm blanking. Other tight ends are Dallas Goedert, so it's like there are other tight ends, but that was somebody who I kind of was like, oh, that's interesting, but it is what it is.
And and I feel like he's going to be a practice squad player because I feel like he always comes back and makes his way to the practice squad. So
yeah,
we'll probably be seeing him.
Sad day across the league, but it is what it is. And we'll make sure we keep our eye out on the rest of the cuts that are coming down the pipeline and keep you guys informed on everything. Another storyline with the Birds, Jonathan Taylor. There's only been like 2 teams that have really been like, I guess, considering, bringing him on, Dolphins, and there's been talks about the Eagles. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on, like, would you want to see him land here? Like, what are just your general thoughts on Jonathan Taylor landing in Philly?
At first, I was like, no, we don't need Jonathan Taylor. Like, I don't want to give up any assets for him because, we do have DeAndre Swift. We're going right. We're going forward. Like, we want our draft assets in the future, yada, 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 yada. But then, when I thought about it again, I'm like, why would I turn down a phenomenal talent to add to the offense? That's actually crazy because we know that the expectations for the Eagles is to win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So we have to be all chips in. Mm-hmm. So DeAndre Swift is good. He's an upgrade over Miles, yada, yada, yada. But he's not Jonathan Taylor. So at the end of the day, if it's a situation where they want Swift for Jonathan Taylor, I'm doing the deal. Because you can never have too many guys. You could never be set. We're good on offense. We're set. Absolutely not. It's a long season. Players go down, players get injured. We have a gauntlet of a schedule. So to add a major piece to this offense like Jonathan Taylor, to say no to that would be insane. And like I said, I was saying no at first, like, oh, we're good, yada, yada, yada. Now, I would rather, if it was a situation where it was like, get a Buddha or Jonathan Taylor, or get Patrick Queen or Jonathan Taylor, of course, I would rather trade for a safety or a linebacker. But if it's just Jonathan Taylor and Buddha and Patrick's not an option, go ahead and get Jonathan Taylor. There's no such thing as we're good. It's 17 weeks. We have a tough schedule. We cannot play around and play, we're comfortable game. Absolutely not. Bring me Jonathan Taylor.
I do think that this season, on one of the other podcasts that we have for Monday Football Monday, on SB Nation, they've been talking a lot about, we've been following, of course, like the running back drama that's been happening. Everybody, Saquon Barkley, just pretty much like trying to see if the league will get back to that style of play, and also like if they're going to pay these running backs. And so it's just been so interesting, and like looking at the running back room for the Eagles, I think it's exciting because they're so loaded, like they have so many talented players. And so like you said, I don't think that there will be a problem with adding him to the depth chart. Like, why not?
Exactly.
You just never know. Like, they leaned on the run game a good amount last year. That always helps the offense for sure. We already have Jalen Hurts who runs, but it's like, if you have all of these talented guys as well, I don't think that could hurt. And so I'm here for it, but definitely something to keep our eyes out for in these upcoming days. Definitely by the end of day today, we might see something happen also. But I did want to ask your thoughts on just looking at the Eagles roster, looking at the Eagles like coaching staff, new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. Is there anybody in particular who you feel like is going to be under the most pressure going into the season?
Going into definitely Sean Desai, because again, this season, we have a defense that's loaded with talent, especially up front. We even added more to the pass rush room, because last year Robert Quinn was on the roster, but he wasn't doing shit. So we even upgraded the pass rush room, which was a top pass rush last season. So I think Sean Desai definitely has a lot of pressure on him, because we went from a defensive coordinator last year that didn't utilize the talent to the fullest. And now this season, we're going up against much tougher competition. So Sean Desai is going to have to be on his toes. Also, pressure the two Georgia boys from last draft, because this year's Georgia boys, 2023 class of Georgia Philly Dogs, they already popping off day one instantly. Step right off that championship stage, put that trophy down, put that Eagles green on, and translate it instantly. Jordan Davis, we're going to need to see a lot from him. And he's saying, oh, I took this big leap, I'm better now, I slimmed down, yada yada yada. We're going to have to see that on the field. We're going to see that on the field, because again, Fletcher Cox is up there in age, and now Milton Williams is creeping in and looking a little bit better than Jordan Davis, looking like he pushing up on Jordan Davis, and Jordan Davis was a number 9 overall pick.
Yeah.
So pressure's on there, like Nakobe Dean.
Heck yeah. Yes.
He was the Buck Buchanan Award winner, best player on the best defense.
Yeah. Green dot
leader of this defense that we're saying has to come together. We have a lot of loaded offenses. Nakobe Dean is going to have to be ready. Like,
that's my main guy.
Those 2023 Georgia Bulldogs, we need to see that. We need to see that national championship. We need to see that Buck Buchanan Award winner on the field. So those are the guys I have my eye on, because don't let the 2023 class pass you.
Yeah. It was cool to see Nakobe Dean flash a little bit. I think that was the game against the Browns preseason, two preseason. We saw that play after he picked up the penalty. Like, he had a really big play. But other than that, like, he missed a lot of time during training camp. And so that's concerning. But like you said, I think he's definitely one of the top players under pressure going into the season. And so the expectations are high, He is, like you said, in his second season. So it's kind of just like, you can't be quiet, especially when you look at the linebacker room. Like, we need you to step up. So yeah, definitely. I agree with that one. What would you say are like your biggest contenders when you look at the NFC? Of course, we know that the Eagles are at the top, but do you feel like there are any like sleeper teams that are like playing hiding under plain sight or hiding in plain sight? Or any other teams that you just feel like are gonna like surprise us?
I don't think for the NFC, I don't think there's anybody on our schedule that's going to surprise us. Again, there's teams. I think the Vikings are going to give us good competition. I think if Matt Stafford is back, that the Rams might give us good competition. But I don't think those are going to be teams that we're going to be like worried about come playoff time if everything goes right with us with injuries. But I think two teams that kind of had a really good offseason, obviously the Detroit Lions. They had a really good offense last season. And they just couldn't stop anyone on defense. But this year, obviously, they added a lot of pieces. They got Brian Branch out the draft. They got Jack Campbell, a top linebacker in the draft as well. They got, obviously, our guy, CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yep.
They added I can't think of his name right now, but they added a cornerback, but I can't think of his name right now. I want to say it was a former Steeler, but they added to the cornerback room. They obviously added to the safety room with Brian Branch. They had a up and coming pass rusher, James Houston, that really popped off towards the end of the season. So they added a lot on defense. Yeah. So they already had the offense, and they even added to the freaking offense, getting David Montgomery, and then go ahead and drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. Mm-hmm. So the Lions, baby, come playoff time, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna be trying to roar on us, but we'll see about that.
Yeah.
And also the Falcons, like again, I don't think that's a team that's gonna be pushing up on us.
Yeah,
that's a team that we could meet in the playoffs that we can't ignore. They're another team that loaded up on defense. They loaded up on offense. They had a really good off season, added a lot of pieces. So that's two teams that were nobodies in the NFC last year that I think are going to be not Super Bowl threats, but they're going to be threats in the playoffs.
Yeah. I definitely think that when you just look at the division, I think that they're gonna I think we're good in the division. Like all four teams, I think are going to be up there, like taken seriously. Giants, I feel like probably for me on my list are probably at the bottom. But when I look at the Commanders, I don't know. Like I'm kind of like gonna be paying attention to Sam Howell. I think that he's going to definitely be kind of exciting, a little bit better than we think. And then, of course, I think the Cowboys are going to be up there, of course, and 49ers, not looking at the NFC East, but like 49ers for sure. But I think the NFC East are definitely going to be up there, like as a whole. It's going to be like just like last year when all four teams were good. I think it's going to be the same this year. Falcons, I hadn't really considered them because I'm just like, the Falcons, but like you said, they do have some talented young pieces. They're tight end. What's the guy?
Kyle Pitts.
Then
they got Drake London. They got Bijan Robinson. They already had a 1,000-yard rusher last year. You said what?
Yeah. I thought the only thing I feel like is like Desmond Ritter has really like proven to be like decent. But I guess like if you have all of these talented weapons on your offense, if they can elevate you, then you just never know what he's going to look like. So I hadn't really thought about them, but definitely going to be paying attention to them as well. Before we get out of here, what would you say is like your record prediction?
I feel like at minimum 12-5.
Fair.
I feel like that's like the minimum. I feel like we could pull off 14-3, even 15-2, but I feel like we should be winning. I feel like we should win at least 12 games this season.
So do you think like last year was just like a historic year, especially when we think about like one, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, but then also like when it came to like sack production, do you think that it's going to be as easy for the Birds? I feel like 12-5 is definitely realistic. That's what I'm going with. But do you think that it's going to be a little bit harder? They were healthy last year. That look that we had. What are your thoughts on just comparing the two seasons?
Well, the schedule is definitely tougher than last season, but I feel like up front we can definitely be more productive on the defensive line because, like I said, we had Jordan Davis who went out for a long period of time last season. We had Robert Quinn on the roster who wasn't producing or doing anything at all. So then we add a guy like Jalen Carter, who's going to be coming in for Javon Hargrave and is a little bit better against the run than Javon Hargrave is, and automatically be coming in, getting to the quarterback as we've seen. We're going to be adding in Nolan Smith, who we had Robert Quinn last year who didn't do anything. So Nolan Smith does one thing, then he's already better than Robert Quinn was last season. Then we Milton Williams is a guy who has been coming up at camp and popping off at camp. So I feel like our defensive line this season could be just as good, will be just as good, but honestly has the potential to be even better. And if Sean Desai uses our pass rushers better than Jonathan Gannon did, right, then we're even better. And even if Derek Barnett ends up staying on the roster, that's still a depth piece if we need him. Josh Sweat was hurt for a part of last season. Jordan Davis, Robert Quinn wasn't doing anything. So we had a lot of injuries across the defensive line last season. So this season we have even more depth. So I feel like defensively, we could be much better than last season. And even offensively, like the schedule is tougher, but I feel like the team is going to be tougher because Dallas Goedert was hurt for a good period of last season. And we saw how with Dallas Goedert not being on the field, that's one of Jalen Hurts' favorite target because Dallas Goedert is the player he's played with the most on this offense. So we saw when Dallas Goedert went out, how much tougher that was for A.J. Brown, how much tougher that was for Smitty. So now those three guys, even as pass catchers, they already have a year together under their belt. There had to be a little bit of adjustment period with A.J. Brown coming in and Devontae Smith still trying to find his role and Dallas Goedert still trying to find his role, going from number 2 option to number 3 option. So those three guys have much more chemistry together. We have a more lethal weapon in DeAndre Swift, who could do so much more than Miles Sanders could last season, plus adding a thumper like Penny to the team. So this team is better, honestly, if you look at it, than last season, in my opinion. We have more depth in the cornerback room because we saw last season when Avonte Maddox went down, how thin we were at corner. So I think this team, we still obviously have the big question at linebacker. What Nakobe Dean looking like. So that's the biggest thing for me, is seeing what the linebacker room gonna look like.
Fair. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate you stopping by. Can you let our loyal listeners know where they can find you? Any special projects, anything you got going on?
So yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Symone Symone with the sports. And then, like you said, Twitter, Symone_Stanley. But it's the season is here, so we have a lot of great Eagles content coming up, a lot of great NFL content coming up. So make sure you guys tap in and be on the lookout for that.
Thank you so much, Symone. I appreciate it. I definitely got to get you back on for another episode this season. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course.